Hey everybody! This lesson we're going to talk more about Python lists, for loops, and how to use them to copy and move objects. In front of us I have created a rectangle named bar, and I've colored it blue. What I'm going to do is use a for loop to create copies of this bar, move them, and add them to a list called bars list. Then I will display the bars list in the show command, and you will be able to see all the bars that we've created. I'm going to begin by creating an empty list named bars list below the line where we create our bar. We do this using empty square brackets to show that the list is empty when we create it. When a list contains objects and is put into the show command, then all of the objects in the list will be displayed. Now what we are going to do is use a for loop to create copies of bar, move them along the x-axis, and add them to bars list, and then display them all. For an easy first example, I will only repeat these actions 3 times so that I can clearly explain how it works to you. Then I will increase the number of times I repeat it to 10. So I will write the beginning code for our for loop by typing in the code for I in range 3 with a colon after it, then pressing enter to go to the next line. Remember that I is a variable which changes every time the loop is repeated. In this case, it goes over the list created by the range command, which contains the numbers from 0 to 3, which are 0, 1, and 2. Now our next line must be indented 2 spaces in order for the program to function. For our first line, we will make a copy of our bar object and call it copied bar. Then we will move the copied bar object I units up the x-axis and 0 units up the y-axis using the move command. We will type in move copied bar I units on the x-axis and 0 units on the y-axis. Now we will use a new command to add the copied bar to our list of bars. This command is called append, and what it does is add an individual object to the end of a list. It takes 2 parameters. The first is the name of the list, in this case bar list, and the second is the object that we want to add to the end of it, in this case copied bar. It is an all caps highlighted command, so we will type in append to bars list copied bar. Now we must change the item to be displayed in the show command from our single rectangle bar to the list of these bars, which is called bars list. Before we run the program, let's consider what is going to happen. We create a rectangle named bar and an empty list called bars list. We then color the rectangle blue and we make a for loop to repeat a set of actions 3 times. In the body of the loop, we create a copy of the bar object and name it copied bar. We then move it I units up the x-axis. Remember that I will start at 0 and then go to 1 the second time the loop repeats, and then 2 the next time it repeats. So each of these bars that we create with each repeat of the for loop will move 1 more unit along the x-axis than the one before it, with the first bar moving 0 units. Then after we move each of these bars, we append them to the end of the list called bars list. Then we finish by displaying bars list, which contains the copied bars that we have made. Now let's run the program. We can see that 3 blue rectangles were made and displayed, each 1 whole unit up the x-axis from the previous one, exactly like we had predicted would happen. Now for a final example, let me show off to you again just how useful for loops are by making our program create a list of 10 bars. All I have to do is change the parameter in the range command from a 3 to a 10. So let's do that and then run our program. There are now 10 bars, all moved 1 unit in front of the previous one along the x-axis. Though this wasn't necessarily 3-dimensional modeling, I hope this lesson has opened your eyes to how using for loops and lists can be used to greatly increase your modeling abilities. Just imagine how much code you would have had to write to create those 10 blue bars and move them into these positions if you didn't have a for loop to help. So, to summarize this lesson, remember a few key things. Remember again that for loops are very useful for repeating actions in your programs, and that the number of times they repeat can be controlled by using different numbers in the range command. Remember that lists are simply just lists of objects, and the objects can be added to the end of a list using the append command. Also remember that when a list is put into the show command, then all of the objects which are in that list will be displayed. Remember how the copy and the move commands were used inside the body of our for loop in order to create and move objects, because knowing how to do this is a very powerful tool which will help your 3D modeling enormously. As usual, experiment with what I've shown you here and see what you can make.